There's Craig. How you doing, my friend?
What do you say?
We had confusion on Zoom addresses. Zoom itself produces special codes that are different from my account code, which is 902.
Oh, wow.
And so Robin and Lisa and I were over there on that one,
Oh,
and I come back over here.
was I supposed to be on a different one?
No, no, you're good.
Oh,
The way you don't have
okay.
you don't have that towel around the base of your mic this time, do you? You do?
I do.
Oh,
I
you
do.
do. Okay. It was sounding, yeah, I see it. It was sounding echoey there for a moment.
What about now?
Better?
Okay,
Yep, right there.
good.
So maybe it's just the leaning in, leaning out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it probably is. I'm working on getting a boom to come up here. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I'm working on that right
That'll
now.
be cool. Yeah, that'll be very cool.
So I
So
had a really cool meeting today with the founder of Reebok, Joe Foster.
tell me about it.
It was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. I interviewed him for about 15 minutes.
In what context?
So I just talked to him about some of the challenges he ran into and how he pivoted and how he what habits and routines that he did to increase his team management effectiveness, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
I'm going
were
to
you
publish
doing
that
that
on LinkedIn
from
and
what,
stuff.
in what context was this taking place? Was this like,
Zoom.
no, that's a media.
Oh,
Context, meaning why was he meeting with you? Was it because
oh,
he sees you as a problem solver? Was he a guest on your podcast? Was this
yeah.
this call or?
So I'm putting together podcast guests. I'm going to start a podcast just from a standpoint of um, trying to meet people. So it was $150 to spend 15 minutes with him, and I figured it'd be a really good opportunity to have somebody of his stature
Yeah,
as part of my repertoire to attract other people that I want to try to get.
yep. I've got to do a quick send
You're
uh,
fine.
an invitation because of this confusion here.
I get it.
Okay. Um, Sandy, go. Let's see. I just sent those, and so we will see what's going on. Zoom ticks me off because of the way it operates like this. So
I
Robert,
really like that name.
say it
I
again.
really do like that meat company.
Oh, Meetin, Meetn. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Meetin is a nice one. I've got to figure out one other thing about it, and that is how to access the recordings once they're done. But I'm really pleased with it. It's got a simple look, and
Yeah.
it's a nice forum. I was
I like it.
last night. I was in a Zoom meeting, a worldwide Zoom meeting, AI global council that I've been asked to serve as an advisor on, which is interesting because I don't have much expertise in AI, but I do have the kind of expertise that makes people better at using AI. So that's good. But I
Yeah.
want to pose a question for today. We're already underway, of course. Uh, the question I want to pose, just a second. Okay, I'm looking at Robin Kriesman trying to get in. Um, the question I want to pose is this one. What problem do you solve that people are willing to pay to make it go away? Okay. And I don't need a verbal answer. I need you to think about that and write down your answer. Okay. What problem do you solve that people are willing to pay to make that problem go away? So that's question number one. Here's Robin. Howdy do. And
Hello.
Robin, I
Did you get
just
my
posed a
text?
question to Craig. That's a
Hey,
question
Craig.
for all of us. Here's the question. What problem do you solve that people are willing to pay to make that problem go away? Okay. And I asked
Yes.
Craig to write down his answer. Do you already have it written, Craig, or are you still working on it? Craig, you're muted. You're muted. Hi, Sandy.
Hello. I was in
Hi,
another
Sandy.
room.
The problem that I solve is commercialization
Okay, hang on a second.
and effectiveness.
I'll tell Sandy what you're answering. I posed the question, and this is also for you, Sandy. It's for all of us. What problem do you solve that people are willing to pay to make that problem go away? And Craig, let's go back to your answer. Take yourself off mute.
I don't know why it keeps going on mute. That's weird. Commercialization, effectiveness, frustrations.
Commercialization effectiveness is a problem.
It is. Because
Okay.
a lot of people don't know how to commercialize correctly, right?
You're touching something with your hand or elbow that causes you to mute. There you go. There's a mute. There's off mute. There's a mute and off mute. We're watching.
There we go.
All right. Now, let me just stop you where you started. Commercialization. Okay. And let's do a little quick feedback. Robin, what do you think he means?
I don't know. And I'm not his audience, probably, but I don't know.
All right.
Give us some perspective of the audience.
Don't guess.
No?
Sandy, what do you think he means? Commercialization.
It's a bigger production level.
Also, you're guessing, right? You don't know.
Yeah.
Craig, vitally important message to you, Craig. That ain't the
Yeah.
problem you solve. Okay. That may be a way of describing the problem, but that's not the problem itself. Right? Is the problem, and I'm just exploring open-ended here, is the problem more sales or reaching a broader audience? Or is the problem finding the best or the right or the ideal buyers? In other words, not using the term commercialization until paragraph 2, what's the essence of the problem you solve when you walk into the door to talk with somebody and they want to know what problem you solve? What is it?
Customer adoption, effective customer adoption strategies.
Okay, is that a problem? Effective customer adoption strategies, or is that a solution?
Well, people have trouble figuring out how to get customers to adopt their products and services.
Okay. Getting customers to adopt your products and services or to buy your products and services. When you use adopt, is that because that's a term often used in the medical community? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
So basically,
Because when a customer purchases something, they're adopting the technology to use.
yeah. So would customer adoption be a better problem? A better statement of the
Yeah.
problem you solve?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
the problem I solve is customer adoption. Most organizations don't reach their ideal customers effectively enough. And the methods they use for commercialization are often wasted because they're not reaching people in the right way. That's a problem I solve. So I'm just putting words in your mouth. But what I want to do with you and everybody I work with is to get it to where you can say in anywhere from 1 to 4 words exactly what problem you solve, not what solution you bring, what problem you solve. And the solution you bring is the way in which you solve that problem. People ask me, what do you do, Jim? I'd say I'm a mentor to experts and entrepreneurs. In what way? In other words, what problem do you solve? And I say, I solve the problem of lack of clarity and lack of confidence more than any other problems. Clarity on who their customers are, on how to reach them, lack of clarity and lack of confidence, especially as it relates to speaking and making a sales call. Robin, observation so far?
The willingness to pay is always the big kicker. You know, a lot of people, and we both know, all of us probably know speakers who speak that are not really solving a problem that someone's willing to pay for, but they're still a successful speaker. But the bottom line, you need to be able to articulate what it is that problem is. And sometimes it's a soft issue, other times it's not. Even in your comment right there, Jim, some people would think that's a soft problem. That would maybe not a diehard, confidence, and that might not be something I'm going to pay a lot of money for.
Yeah.
But yet I understand the process, and I'm kind of in the same way. I've been in the entertainment lane and then trying to jump into more of a solving the problem. When I was coaching speakers and doing video production and so for speaker, I was absolutely positively solving a problem.
Yeah.
That could absolutely pay for itself 10 times over. Vince Vicente said, if you want to make $100,000 in 10 weeks, it's going to cost you $10,000. How fast are you going to find that $10,000?
Yeah.
What a great testimonial. So it brought the value to what I was doing, but it's hard to articulate that to a dollar in a lot of ways. And, and obviously in Craig's world, to his audience, to his clients, prospects, that's going to relate differently than what it might be to me and Sandy, so you would need to kind of understand where that is. And Jim, yours is very broad and intentionally so, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, without having the wealth of success and all the acknowledgement and accolades that you do as a younger person, I would want to say narrow that lane, but it works
way
perfectly.
I would narrow, excuse me, the way I would narrow that lane is I would say I teach success seekers how to reach the top 1% of any field they choose. I teach success.
Now, some people would say,
yeah,
if you were, when I preface what I said by, if you were younger, someone younger,
mm-hmm.
You would narrow that lane. If someone was younger and they didn't have the success history that you do, I still say that would be too broad.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that's a success seeker, I'm going to help you get success in any industry you want to. That's pretty arrogant without having the credentials that you do, in my mind.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I can back it up with credentials. So
that's right. Exactly.
One of the things that makes me unique. And I've got a book out there on that if they're looking for a cheap way to learn it. Mentor Minutes, how to reach the top 1% of any field. So yes. my value statement is that basically I'm taking it out of wording it for publication and just putting it in the context of a conversation. I can help you identify the field you want to excel in, and I can show you how in a short period of time to reach the top 1% of that field and be considered one of the players who gets to sit at the big kids table. Now that's something my audience is willing to pay for and wants to achieve, right? 'Cause
Exactly.
my audience is success seekers. What's a success seeker? How do you find them? A success seeker is a person who's already successful in a field, and they want more because they feel like they're capable of a great deal more. And they are already going to Tony Robbins seminars and buying books from, all the top names, and signing up with Les Brown and Brian Tracy and people like that. So they're identified people. I can tell you what books they're buying, what podcasts they're tuning into, and so forth. That's my market. And I only want the people who click with me. So when they see the
Right.
first video from me, the "What do you want" video, if they don't feel like I'm their guy, then I'm definitely not. Because I don't
Yeah.
want to make sales to people who don't think I'm it for them.
Yeah.
But those that do, I want them in the full Experts Academy for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Robin,
Yeah. In your situation, you don't want to sell anybody.
no,
You don't want to sell anybody. You want them to come to you and be, asking for you. Yeah,
I want
exactly.
to attract them. I want to attract them and enroll them, but I don't want to sell them if they need selling. What
Right.
about yourself, Robin? How do you answer the question? What problem do you solve? And
Well, currently in the role that I'm playing right now, I am solving a problem for customer experience, customer service reps, and salespeople to not lose customers and not close sales and lose prospects.
okay, so
And I do that
So
by,
let's shorten that, okay? Because I want to get concise with each of you. With Craig, we got it down to a basic little tight statement. Do the same thing with you. Don't make a sentence of it. State it like you've got to stand it up on a little pedestal. Put it there and tell me, what is the problem you solve? Is it losing customers and missing sales?
yes, poor
Good.
performance and losing customers and closing sales.
Okay, then I would put poor performance third, missing sales and losing customers. Those are the two problems you solve. And poor performance is a reason people lose customers and miss sales. Okay, Sandy, you're on
Yep.
deck. All right,
Okay.
what problem do you solve that people are willing to pay to make it go away?
Okay. Lack of confidence, disconnect, isolation, remaining the best kept secret. People who have professionals, they have high value, but no one knows about them or what they offer. They could be really successful, but they don't even know how valuable they are. So sometimes it takes a third person to put words and description and get them more exposure in maybe platforms that they
Let me
have
cut
not.
you off and see if I can make that more concise, okay?
Okay.
What problem do you solve that people are willing to pay to make it go away? I help people get noticed and remembered so they generate more business. I help people get noticed and remembered so that they generate more business.
Okay, let me get that
Okay.
down.
So say that, Jim, in the problem sentence that you used,
Okay.
the problem she's solving.
The problem she's solving is a lack of business. It's
Mm.
generating more business. And the problem is obscurity or wasted money on advertising and networking and all that, wasted time and energy. But the problem she's solving is poor payoff. Not for lack of effort, but from wrong effort or from wrong positioning or something like that. But it all comes back to being seen, valued, and remembered.
Mm.
Seen,
Amazing.
valued, and
How you
remembered.
can clear up things so quickly.
Yeah. See, when you look at a name like Memorable Connections or Memorable Marketing, the essence of that, a business doing that, is making people visible, memorable, and valuable. And not in that order: visible, valuable, and memorable. So VVM would be the way I do it: visible, valuable, memorable. And
Mhm.
Sandy, I would put that into the way I communicate that if I were you. I would, if someone says, so what's memorable marketing? You say, VVM, we help people get more visible among the people who will buy from them, to be seen as more valuable by highlighting the things they do that are worth paying for, and more memorable by showing them ways to clarify their brand and stand out in a crowded marketplace.
Perfect.
Good,
Thank you.
good.
I'm
Build
gonna
on.
start incorporating that into our
Yeah,
website and messaging.
thank you. Well, let's go back to Craig. Craig, you've been noodling and noting since we started here. What has come clear to you
Oh, my
in a
patience.
couple of minutes? Good. Tell me what you've gleaned from this so far.
Yeah, so I'm just writing down a bunch of different words, right, to figure out how to put it so that an eighth grader can understand it, right?
That's right.
And so, I'm thinking here, what problem do I solve? I solve ineffective commercialization obscurity. What does that mean? The lack of clarity, a lack of commercialization understanding, which leads to a lack of effective marketing, effective selling, effective customer service, to ineffective customer adoption.
Okay. And I know all that comes from your experience in the medical industry, medical profession, and industry. Let's say we got together at a networking event and I say, Craig, what problem do you solve? And you said to me, wasted money. Whoa. Well, I'm in. So tell me how you keep me from wasting money. So, well, most of the people I deal with have been in the medical profession, and they spend a fortune in commercializing what they've got and getting physicians and hospitals and pharmacies and all the people up and down the food chain to adopt what they've got. And so much of that is wasted. It's almost as if they had blown their whole budget. But the few that get through tend to be so profitable that it often compensates for all the ones that didn't work. That's kind of
I
like,
actually like that better.
yeah, and you can say, it's kind of like the publishers in New York City. Any given publisher in New York will probably review tens of thousands of books a year, manuscripts, and embrace a few hundred out of all that. And out of the few hundred that they actually publish, only a few dozen ever hit it big. But the problem with their success is it obscures their failure. When they have a hit best-selling book that just goes ballistic and everybody wants one, Harry Potter, for example, then all the downline titles that completely failed become insignificant. And they say, yeah, that's okay, but we found our Harry Potter. No, 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 no. We found our Harry Potter and we wasted millions in the process. Let's refine that waste of millions so that we get more Harry Potters out of the mix. You know, use that analogy. That's made up on the spot, so it's pretty awkward. But you can take that as raw meat, you know, and turn it into a steak. But that's the way I think of the pharmaceutical companies, the medical device companies, you know, all of the people in the full medical field. If that's, and by the way, that's where I recommend you do most of your preliminary work, is because it's a field you know and are known, and you speak their language fluently, and you know how decisions are made, and you know so much about that. It would be a poor investment of your time and money to start in another field right away. Let other fields evolve from your success in that field, because you can go deep in that one quickly. And
So, I mean, if somebody says, well, what do you solve?
Money is the bottom line of the problem you're
solving. Yeah, it is. I was just thinking wasted money on ineffective customer adoption.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'd say the second part at first. I'd make them draw it out.
Okay.
What problem do you solve? Or what do you do? Well, I solved the problem. I help people solve the problem of wasted money. Whoa, I'm intrigued.
The pharmaceutical industry. I think you've got to define whether it's pharmaceutical or medical industry or something to that.
Well, that's where he would, that's who
because everybody
too.
Yeah, it's the only people I talk to is med tech and health tech companies.
I thought you're at a bar someplace, you said.
Yeah. Well, in a bar, same thing. You know, you could do it, but just say what Robin said, you know, in the medical field. And
yeah, I love this. I like this communication right now, because it's really a think tank of how to say something more effectively and how to say it more succinctly, so that they would ask a question and then you can expand on what they want, not what you're telling them.
It's like when people say, tell me, you've written 25 books. Name one of your books? Relationship selling. That's what we do. Really? That's what you do? Yeah. We're very, very good to our customers. Well, that's just being nice to people selling. Relationship selling is making relationships assets for your company and managing them accordingly. What do you mean? And then I can get into a longer discussion. But it's treating relationships as assets. That's the short definition of relationship selling. Most people hear the title and they think it's a Dale Carnegie approach to sales. Be nice to people. Well, yeah, that's part of it, but that's not the concept. The concept is, if Sandy and I just met on the street and she's a prospect for me, and she says, well, tell me one of your books, and I tell her what the book is, and she goes to Amazon, okay, that's a stage in a relationship, but it's a stage that I have no control over at all. If I say, you know, here's the link to order it, copy me on your order, and I will send you an autograph template that you can stick inside your book to personalize it from me. Oh, thank you for that. Now I've got her email address, and I've sent her something that personalizes it, and she feels like I went kind of the extra mile to make this book more special than just a box from Amazon, right? And so I take it from that through the stages that I can easily identify, if I sit down and write them out, all the way to where we're life partners in our business. And she's put me on her list of what do you call it? Beneficiaries when she passes away. I mean, that's a pretty serious transition from meeting someone at a street corner and telling them about your book to they put you on in their will, right? But that's possible with a relationship. Okay, what are the stages and how far along that is it reasonable to expect to get to? Beneficiary, probably outrageously unreasonable. However, it's possible. Tony Alessandra and I have been executor of each other's wills. We started out as fellow speakers at a Century 21 convention in San Diego in '79. I liked his speech. He liked my speech. We got together and sat in the coffee shop for hours, telling stories and just becoming best friends. We became partners and we collaborated on an audio album. Then I moved to California and we moved into one office, merged all our money into one checkbook and all our files together. And then we started taking vacations together with our families, and we've been best friends ever since, even though we're no longer partners. And that started in 1979. So we're talking serious commitment. Well, I've got other relationships like that too. They started as a simple little thing, and they're still going 50 years later, 45 years later. So that's relationship selling, where you get all the business with diminishing effort required. That's the cool thing about relationship selling. The first sale in any type of selling should require the most effort of all. And every subsequent sale should be easier than the first one and easier than the one before it. So that's the concept. I was talking with my co-author of the next relationship selling book, Victor Antonio. Look him up. Amazing guy, phenomenal speaker and sales trainer and expert. Victor came to me and he said, we ought to do something together. I said, well, let's co-author my next book, Relationship Selling. He said, I've got the first one, and I consider it the most important sales book I ever read. And I said, well, you're in. Here's the deal. And he said, okay. And we shook hands. I've got it on video. And that was in Orlando last summer. So he and I were talking about it the other day, and I talked about that continuum. Well, that's not in the book. I didn't write it in my book that way. But that makes sense of everything else. So it'll be in the next version of the book. And there's a book that was started in 1978, maybe, when I first started teaching that concept. And then I wrote the first book in 1985 under that title. And then have written 9 times. It's been reiterated since then, pardon me, and is still going. So think about your own concepts. Think about your own message. I've got a lot of different messages in all these various books, but they all come back to the same thing. And that's helping people live a more meaningful and satisfying life.
Yeah.
Robin?
Hey, Craig. Going back to what he was talking about and trying to narrow that lane, I've often used, and I need to continue to do it myself, ask the 5 W's. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? Why should they care? And what's your wow? Meaning, what's so special about you that if they need what you do, why would they get it from you? Mm-hmm. And the why would they care question is really that kind of the big one, the hook. If you say what you do and to who you do it for, and if they've heard that and they don't care, then you've said it wrong.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that what you're conveying, they're going, what? whoa, just like what Jim was saying a moment ago. Wait, say that again.
Mm-hmm.
Saving money, wasting money, whatever. How does that work? And then tell me more about you. Because if you're not the guy that I want to get it from, I don't care how cool you're doing, I'm going to move to the next guy. So those last three pieces of that in my mind are kind of a strong piece.
Exactly. And when it goes
That
to
makes
what's your wow, that's what is your superpower is the way a lot of people have said it recently. And
Yeah.
it's the part of what you do that people go, oh, hey, tell me more. Or that's an interesting twist. Or, huh, hadn't thought about it like that. By the way, one time I was asked, many times I've been asked, what do you want an audience to say or do as a result of your presentations? Do you want a standing ovation? No, I don't particularly care whether I get a standing ovation. It's nice to get them because it's fun. But a standing ovation, as Bill Gove once told me, Bill being the first president of NSA, he said it tells you more about the audience than it does about the speaker. Because you can go speak to an Amway group or a multi-level of any type, and you'll get a standing ovation for the pledge to the flag. You'll get a standing ovation when they announce your name. I spoke to an Amway group in the Arco Arena in Sacramento one time, 7,500 people. And I got a standing ovation when they introduced me.
Wow.
I hadn't done anything. Now, it's something I didn't realize until I reflected on it was the reason I got it when I was introduced was not because I was famous, but because 7,500 of the 7,500 in the room had a copy of my book, The Acorn Principle. They bought a trainload of my book, hardcover, and sold it to those people in advance. So when I came into the room, I was already a bit of a hero. And at the end of my speech, I spent hours signing autographs until my hand was warped. It was wonderful. I got a screaming ovation, one of those heroes welcome ovations at the end. So it was a good day at Cathcart House. But here's what I want from an audience member. The most important response I can get from an audience member at the end of one of my presentations is this, for them to say the following almost verbatim. I never thought about it that way. That makes perfect sense. I can do that. End of quote. That's what I want from the audience member. I never thought about it like that. That makes perfect sense. I can do that. So that's the goal that I'm striving for every time. And that's why I have so much joy when I help a speaker find their essence, find the real acorn of their message or the DNA of the acorn itself. When we get it that right, they just all of a sudden go, oh yeah. I'm okay. No, you don't need to say, I got this. Thank you. Yeah. And they walk off just happy as a clam. That happened with three people actually, in recent Going Pro mastermind retreats. Julie Furman. Julie is Cupid's coach. She's been a matchmaker for 30 years and, one of the best in the world. And she lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And she's been a protege of mine since she was in her late 20s. And so she signed up for Going Pro and she came to Austin and went through the mastermind retreat. And at the end of it, she said, I am now, this is not verbatim, I am now complete. I know exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. Done. And she went home and turned that into money in just a matter of days. And she's used to reach out to me all the time. She hadn't had to reach out as much. She only reaches out now to brag a little. Jim, let me tell you how this went. And look at this. Ah, and I'm just happy as can be for her. Another one is Laurie Tamayo. She was there and she said, going into this, I was thinking that's a lot of money. $7,500 is a serious commitment. And I was worried about whether I was going to get my money's worth. She said, I am no longer worried. I am 100% clear on what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, who I'm doing it for, and how it's going to work. And so she left, a happy camper. I asked her if she wanted to go for the certified professional expert, and she said, no, it wouldn't be that helpful in her field. Yesterday, this was months after she had been through the mastermind, she said, hey, do you have any recommendations for this and this? I'm talking about publishers. And I gave her some recommendations. So she's still family. She's just not enrolled. And that's cool because I consider people who are no longer enrolled, they're still family, like Jason Tharp and Paul Allen, Paul Wilson, who just rolled out of the Going Pro. They're still family. They can still reach out from time to time. We're just not going to be actively involved every week. And Jason was the third one. He came through the Going Pro Mastermind, and he was sitting there saying, yeah, I got this. He said, I've now affirmed that I'm on the right path and I'm doing it in the right way. And I needed this, so thank you very much. And I've got some more ideas, Jim, so I'm going to get back to you soon. But for now, I'm good to go. Awesome. That's us. So that's what I'm up to here. And I want you to have that same effect with people, is that you produce what I'm seeking to produce, graduates, not annuities. A lot of people in any type of therapy, whether it's physical therapy or psychological counseling or any number of things like that, even coaches, professional coaches, what they want is they want somebody that's going to pay their monthly bills. They want an annuity. And they say, well, you need to come back, for this many sessions because it's really going to take that long. And then you get to the end of that. Okay, am I done? Well, see this right here? Well, we can make that go away, but it's going to take I'm thinking 36 treatments before we get to that. And so they're looking for an annuity. I want graduates. I want people that wearing my T-shirt saying, I went to Cathcart Institute and I'm a graduate, the year 2023, class of 23. That's what I'm looking for. So I want certified professional experts all over the world who are telling their friends, you ought to do that too. So, Sandy, what thoughts have stuck with you since that discussion you and I had a while ago?
A while ago today.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, you and I talked a while ago, and then I talked with the other guys, and so it's your turn again. And I just, with all that we've said, there's been a lot to pick up on. So what have you gotten out of this, or what questions have come up for you? Either one.
Well, I appreciate just the clarity, because you have a gift of just making it so clear and putting it into words where people can get like up front is really a gift, because I've gone through a lot of visiting these networks that are global, and that's a whole thing. We have the breakout sessions, which is great because then we take turns introducing ourselves, explaining what we do.
Yep.
And that's a whole process. That is the key, is because it's hard to explain what we do ourselves. It takes a third party to articulate or help us to articulate what we're offering and what we're about.
Mm.
Because, we live with ourselves. We don't know how to explain ourselves.
Well, I always say we're in the forest, right? We can't see the forest from the trees.
Yeah.
We need somebody else
Yeah.
to look at the helicopter view to pick out the trees to let us know where we need to navigate.
Yeah.
Like the cobbler with his kids and his shoes. You can coach others, but you can't coach yourself.
It's kind of like Randy Pennington said in Dallas the other day, Robin. Robin and I we drove up all the way to Greensville, Texas, which is outside of Dallas, and went to the Texan Theater and did a half day of filming on stage. Each of us, there were four of us speakers, and Randy Pennington was one of them. And in his comments, he said something I've heard before that I embrace very much. He said, if you ask a fish, how's the water? It's going to say, what's water? Right? So that's why it's so important to see ourselves as others see us. There's an old Scottish proverb that says, oh, what a gift the giftie gave us to see ourselves as others see us. Actually, they say it in Scottish. They say, oh, what gift the giftie gave us to see ourselves as others see us. Right? So it rhymes better
The Texas version.
when you do it their way. Yeah. But yeah, the giftie, whoever, gave us our gifts, that they gave us a gift to be able to see ourselves as others do. I did this from stage the other day in Texas, Texan Theater, and it's a description of the going pro, what it means when you go pro. And I'd like to get your feedback on it. The way I posed it that day in a little video clip was I walked out on stage, sat on a bar stool, and I said, when was the day you took charge of your life? Some people never do. For many people, it's delayed a long time. But that's the day the rules change for you. And here are the qualifiers I put down. What happens when one goes pro? Well, first off, to turn pro means to suddenly become a true professional in whatever you profess. And now to profess means to take a stand, to accept responsibility, to say, I'm in charge to yourself, to learn until you win, to make a difference versus only making a living, right? So when you go pro, you change the rules that apply to you, and you start living by higher standards and applying requirements on yourself that are not from external, but from internal, from your new commitment. Okay. That's number one, your rules change. Two, you stop keeping score of other people. Although you noticed other people in your field, you keep score on yourself versus your previous self. No more excuses is number three. Number four, if it hurts, it hurts. Like when I quit smoking, I told my friends I've quit smoking, and they said, oh, you're trying to quit. No, I'll never smoke again as long as I live. How could you know that? Because I know no matter how much it hurts, how much it costs, how long it takes, how difficult it is, I'm never going to smoke again as long as I live. Oh. So I gave away the ashtrays, and I gave away the engraved lighters to strangers who were not likely to be able to give it back to me. So I got out of the smoking paraphernalia business and the smoking practice at the same time. And that was January 25th, 1970. But
Wow.
excuse me, 1974, not 1970. Number five, they learn from everyone. Someone who goes pro, they learn from everyone. Emerson said, everyone in some way is my superior, and in that I can learn from them. They put in the hours that are needed, they complain less. Peter Vidmar, the Olympic gymnastics perfect 10 captain of the team in LA years ago, said he always put in 15 minutes more practice every day than all of his teammates who were also Olympians. They look forward to work. They love to think and discover and learn and grow. That's number 8. Number 9, eager to change and evolve. They're not interested in staying the same. They're eager to evolve. They're 10, they're willing to make mistakes and keep on improving. They 11, keep records, notes, reminders, and checklists as never before. And they reflect on those, because if you only write it down, it becomes shelf help. You have to review it for it to be self-help. 12, they interfere less in the lives of others. 13, they insist on consequences and outcomes and rewards from their actions or inactions, and insist on consequences as well as payoffs. Okay. Number 14, they take initiative as if they were the owner, even when they're not. And number 15, and finally, they build a solid rock foundation on their values. So they're totally clear on what they care about, believe in, and are committed to, and they make their life choices accordingly. So that's how I describe what it means to go pro. What's your feedback on that?
Very clear.
I was just gonna say, it's any more description would muddy the waters.
Is it
Even some of that can maybe even be taken out a little bit,
Yeah, I started to say
but it's very clear.
some of it's redundant. I could turn 2 statements into one.
I can see, well, probably a lot of people would self-exclude themselves after a certain point.
Which
But,
suits me, right? Because if
Mhm.
you're not a prospect, why should I
right,
spend time trying to get you to buy?
yeah. Well, Gino and I were just talking about that because, we launched the first annual Santa Barbara Business Expo. Just the 2 of us were driving down the street. We noticed, businesses were struggling, and we thought, well, what can we do to help? And it just kind of flowed and put together. And then now we look back and it's like, well, why aren't more people doing this? Why aren't more people even hosting a dinner party?
Yeah,
And we've finding that it's a small percentage of those that are willing to, invest in themselves and to make a real difference and be uncomfortable.
yeah.
And,
Be uncomfortable.
take
That's a big deal.
mhm,
People who are growing, people who are committed to growth, they are perfectly okay with being uncomfortable. And if you look at who are the weakest in society, those that seek comfort. Who are the strongest? Those that seek growth or improvement, right? Who are the ones in the herd that get eaten by the wolves? The ones that don't keep up, the ones at the back that get bitten first. And then they're even weaker, and then the wolves can overwhelm them. Well, and wolves do it that way. They don't attack the herd. They wait for somebody to be on the edge of the herd, and they go bite them and then back off. And then they notice, since they bit them in the proper place on their leg, they're now hobbled and they're limping. And so the rest of the herd tends to get further away, and they wait to see that they're far enough away that it's safe, and they go bite a second time. And now that beast can't walk anymore. And so if the herd's not going to come back and protect them, then the wolves are going to come in and eat them. Well, that's the way a lot of wars are fought. They test your defenses to see where you're weak. And then they marshal all their forces to attack that weak spot. So it's overwhelmed. Or they surround you and attack all the spots at once to have you expose where your weakness is. And then they all come around and go for that one. Well, the same thing's true in a positive sense for marketing. You look at what's the greatest need, which would be the weak spot. What is the greatest need that they're willing to pay to make it, to resolve it? And if that's wasted money, or if that's unengaged employees, or if that's customers that are leaving prematurely that you could have still served, or whatever it happens to be, then that's the thing you go after. And you go after it instead of with an attack, with a solution, so that you're going to make that problem go away. And then they say, hey, thanks for making that problem go away. You feel like family now. Would you move in? By the way, my Tulsa situation, Joe Willard, 76. Joe Willard was the general agent of Mass Mutual Life Insurance, Tulsa, Oklahoma, in 1976. I was on the U.S. Junior Chamber of Commerce national staff in charge of leadership training and teaching at a local community college, Tulsa Junior College. I was teaching time management and goal setting in the evening, for which I was being paid $15. Yay. And God, $15. Anyway, I was teaching this night course, and one of the people that came to the night course knew Joe Willard, and Joe was saying, hey, do you know anybody who teaches goal setting? Yeah, there's this guy. And so they told about me, and I went over and met with Joe, and he said, I'd like to hire you to come speak to my agents at a resort on the lake. We're going to have an annual meeting, a retreat in a few weeks. Would you do that? I'll pay you. Pay me? Yeah. And so even though I had a full-time job at the JCs, I got to do this little gig on the side for Joe, and it went well. And he said, would you come back in a few months after the first of the year and do a program for my staff? And I said, yeah. So I went back to my business and he went back to his. Well, a few months passed. I come back and he's moved into a big new penthouse suite, beautiful, has a whole top floor of an office building that was just built, and no longer the old tired office I'd been to before. And he's got 19 agents, and they're really starting to grow. And he said, Jim, I changed my mind. And I said, I don't blame you. You don't need me anymore. You're out of my league. He said, no, my guys love you. I love you. I want you around. Come back and move in. Move in. I've got a job. He said, well, what do they pay you? And I told him, and he said, I'll pay you that. I said, but I don't want an insurance career. He said, I know you want to be a professional speaker. You got to do it somewhere. Why don't you come over here? I'll give you a corner office, penthouse floor. I'll give you all the training you need to learn Mass Mutual's ways. We'll make you a licensed agent so that you can refer business or even make sales, and you'll be credible with the agents here. And you can build your speaking career. And I said, but what if I get a gig, and you got something going on? He said, do your gig. I said, well, done. We shook hands. I moved in March, I think, of 77, something like that. I moved in with him. And it was June. And then I worked with the agency a lot. And that first year, I was paid $18,000, which is what I'd make at the JCs, by Joe. And I made $10,000 more speaking. The next year, I made $28,000 speaking. And another $10,000, Paula had quit her job as a secretary where she was making 10 and was helping me a little bit. And so my income grew by what hers shrunk. So our standard of living didn't change. But the next year it doubled, and then it doubled again, and it kept growing from there. And I got to where I was doing so many speeches, I had to tell Joe, I can't take your money anymore. He said, yeah, but I want you to stay around, so I'm giving you a suite instead of that corner office you've had. And so he gave me a suite, and I hired a secretary. And he said, you can use our conference room. You can use all of our equipment, like our gold laminating machine and our stamping machine and all that sort of stuff. And you can use our full-time cook. We had a full-time cook that would do steaks and salads and casseroles and things in your offices if you wanted. And so I had a luxury office for which I was getting, that was my pay for my consulting. And I was giving him 19 days a year. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. I had a wonderful run of 6 years in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and almost 5 of those were with Joe Willard in that situation. And I grew my speaking career to where I met Tony Alessandra and moved to California. All right, moved to California, stayed in touch with Joe as friends, but didn't do any more business with him. But I got 35 agencies of MassMutual because of Joe to hire me to come to their agencies and do training. The home office of MassMutual hired me to create training programs for the entire company for pay. The $1 Million Roundtable hired me to be the opening keynote speaker of the biggest convention in the world for life insurance agents, MDRT, opening general session. Just the opening session had Bella Caroli and the gymnasts of the U.S. Olympics gymnastic team. They did a show, and then they cleared the stage, and I came out for the opening keynote. This is kind of a big deal. And then later they had the Mormon Tabernacle Choir there for a key performance. I mean, this was a mega, mega, mega big deal for the life insurance world and for this little guy. So,
Wow.
and I'm in California now, and I'm working with Tony and growing my business all over the world, working with insurance agencies and banks and every kind of association and business under the sun. In 2018. Okay, now Joe hired me in 1977, right? In 76, it began. In 77, he brought me on board. And then I left in end of 82 to go to California. So from 82 all the way to 2018, Joe and I were merely friends. I called Joe and I said, Joe, I want you to come with me to China, all expenses paid, first class. He said, let me think about it. Okay. In other words, there was no pause. He said, of course. And so I flew him first class to China, and he and I toured China and Taiwan for better part of a week or 10 days and had the time of our lives. And it was all expense paid for him. And I brought him up on stage in front of the people over there and interviewed him with an interpreter, standing at our elbows. And he was signing, they were asking him to autograph my books as well as me. So Joe had a blast. And then last month, Joe said, Jim, I'm sending you a plane ticket. Come to Tulsa. I said, you don't have to. He said, I want to. So he flew me to Tulsa. I went to his ranch and hung out with him for 3 or 4 days. And he had brought in a very successful friend of his for the express purpose of meeting me and working with me. So that's a relationship from A to Z plus. And so when I'm teaching this, it's also because I've lived it again and again and again, and I can give examples like that. And I want each of these descriptions not to be Jim telling another Jim story, but you listening to an example that you can apply. So what did you
Sandy, I want to give you one comment. I got to go.
Okay.
But you're talking about some people don't want to do what's necessary. I'm struggling with that because I'm teaching these rockstar principles of success from these artists that I've worked with, trying to convey them to the general public, the everyday professional, and finding out that a lot of them don't really want to do the work that it takes to reach that level. And rightly so, because these rock stars over here, we'll call, have done it since, their whole life. That's their passion. That's their whole purpose. And yet a lot of us are in jobs that we don't necessarily like, or we've gone down a path in our life that we don't really resonate with necessarily. And I'm not willing, because I'm busy, I got my family, everything else, I'm not willing to put in the time and effort to be that 1%.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to figure out how to better to say this,
Yep.
it's just in my situation is be your best, number one, and be better than most.
Okay. Here
Just
you go.
be your best
Ready? You
and
ready?
be better than most.
I'm going to say that back to you differently. You ready?
Please do.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone says, Robin, what do you do? I work with rock stars. Rock stars. Yeah, I've worked with, and then you rattle off a bunch of names. And I take what I've learned from them and I show businesses how to use many of those same principles to grow their customer base or grow their profit margin. I work with three types of people because I recognize the world's not filled with people that want to be rock stars or are willing to do the work to be one. So if someone really has the burning fire and they want to be a rock star, I can help them get there quicker. For those that aren't quite that committed to the idea of being a rock star, I show them how to be an everyday rock star. To be part of
That's right. That's the word.
you know, to be part of the band. You don't have to stand up front. You don't have to stay up, every night and work on your craft like they do. But you can get a seat at the table. You can be part of the band. And then the third group of people I work with, and I can do all this at the same time, a little bit more time with each group, is I show the people who don't really want to be part of the band, but they want to be part of the crew. Maybe a roadie, maybe maybe they're selling tickets, maybe they're managing the theater. I don't know. But I show those people how to apply the same principles in their way. So there's three levels.
That's good.
There's the all in, there's the I want to be where the action is, and I want to help. And I got something for all three of you. Where's your greatest need? And then the client says to you, mostly we need help with the band. Dynamite. My band was da-da-da-da-da for years. We called ourselves Backstreet. Let me show you guys how to take the principles from Backstreet and apply it to Main Street.
That's good.
That's real good. That's real great.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Okay.
good.
Luckily, we record these things, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm thankful for
Yes.
that because I can't remember. I can't retain it all.
Yeah, it is.
I've been
I can't
dribbling
write
down
that.
as fast as it goes down.
Good.
That's
But
awesome.
Robin, I think
but
that-
yeah, Sandy, I just want to, you made the comment about that, and I understand you're right. And I've got the two categories. I had not thought about the third category, Jim, as you know. So that was an add-on today. That's good. But
Yeah.
everyday rock star is kind of the lane that I've been leaning to, because so many of their other don't want to go to the 1%ers. But that's great to have the breakdown of all three. That really is.
But it's
Yeah.
good for
And then
me
the
as a
fourth one
customer.
the fourth one would be for the managers.
For managers,
Pardon me?
managers.
Yeah, for the to teach the managers how
Yeah.
to be the leader of the band,
Yeah.
and to grow the band. So
Yeah.
four of them.
Or the leader of the rock star. Even if it weren't the band, they could be their agent. So you got managers, agents. The metaphor works up and down the scale. And you can also have
Yeah.
a service or a value that you can offer to fans. So there's something you can do for the business's customers. Okay. So you just tell people I work with rock stars. I've spent my entire career working with rock stars. And I do it now in a business context more often than an entertainment venue or context. However, I still work with entertainers as well. And then you start talking about all these moving parts, but make that metaphor rich and alive. None of your competitors who use the phrase rock star are doing that. So you take the whole concept of, a rock star has to be willing to be a Tony Robbins, totally committed to one path and all in, and nothing else exists, right? But then there's the everyday rock star, and that's the band. And then there's the crew that helps the band stand out and shine, right? And then there's the managers and the agents. And then there's the fans. And have something that you offer for each of those, and keep fleshing that out until you've got a story that's so interesting to tell that you can't find enough time to tell it.
Yeah. That's
Craig,
good.
same for you.
That's good.
Sandy, same.
I got to run, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great to see you. And Christina, watching later, same for you. So take this
And
thinking.
Lisa,
What problem do you solve?
Lisa will be watching later.
That's right. Lisa Marie. What problem do you solve that people are willing to pay to make it go away? And what is your solution in a 3-word statement? And then, take it the way that we did this and truly go pro. All right. Love all of you. Have a happy week.
All right.
Enjoy the holiday
I
season.
can't wait to review this video.
Okay,
Yes,
got it. I'll
thank
post it
you.
on our Going
Right.
Pro Facebook page, group page.
Okay.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.